Hello, welcome to Lavisana blog. In this short video is a summary of the carbohydrate component of macronutrients that we can find in food. It is my hope that there is increase in understanding of the carbohydrate family of food and knowledge of which we can all use when making certain decisions on food purchase and consumption. Here, we start with the breakdown of nutrients. We see that it can split into macronutrients and micronutrients. We continue to follow the path of macronutrients and see that it further splits into the carbohydrate component, the protein component, and the fat component. Here, we are focusing on the carbohydrate component. And as we move along, we start with the simple, then travel to the more complex carbohydrates. Starting with the simple sugars, we can see that it provides us the energy because of the glucose and similar units. And if we were to measure this energy, we could find that 1 gram of carbohydrate is measured to be 17 kilojoules or 4 calories that we can find in food. We must know here though that it is the sugar unit or units that are absorbed, because later we may realize that not all carbohydrate components become fully absorbed in the gut to provide the body with that 17 kilojoules per gram of carbohydrate molecules. But we see for now that foods such as fruits and honey, milk, for example, provide us with enough sugar as a source of energy. As we move along, the sugar units are adding on to one another and the bonds become increasingly complex. We can move to states of compounds containing 1 or 2 sugar units, or compounds known as mono or disaccharides as we have seen previously, to ones containing between 3 to 9 sugar units, and we call these oligosaccharides. As mentioned before, these longer and more complex chains may begin to bypass the small size section of the gut, that is the small intestine. It can reach to the large intestine, and here is where the bacteria in the large intestine can begin to act. And instead of the carbohydrate component being digested and absorbed, it is instead being fermented by the bacteria in the gut. These types of food, as we can see here, may be some source of prebiotics. It is that carbohydrate component that can stimulate the growth of certain beneficial bacteria, such as the bifidobacterium. We continue with more complex chains as they are more complexly bonded, and the numbers of sugar units increasing to much greater than 9 units. Here we find polysaccharides or many sugar units. These may exist in the form of resistant starch. There is going to be fermenting action by the beneficial bacteria in the gut. Foods mentioned within the grouping of the oligosaccharides may also overlap with this grouping, as the food sources themselves contain those overlapping groups. Also, this grouping contains chicory root, seen as inulin on food labels. This can be a great source of probiotic and can be found in yogurt and other dairy products. There may be, however, the undesirable effects of abdominal bloating and gas production in some persons following the consumption of these. Now we move towards the dietary fiber, and within this content we have the soluble fiber, and we see these sources here. It is important to note that for cereal grains, it is considered more nutrient dense to consume whole grain and not the refined one, as the refining process removes both the bran and the germ layers, that is, the outer layers of the grain, And removing these portions is the same as removing the actual fiber content of the grain, thereby losing the benefits that come with the fiber component of the grain. Additionally, the refining process also strips away some vitamins and minerals and thus makes the grain less nutrient dense overall. Soluble fiber absorbs water in the gut to soften the stool. Additionally, there is beta-glucan which can be found in oats and barley, and the beta-glucan can exert certain effects such as lowering blood cholesterol and blood glucose levels. Finally, we have reached the insoluble fiber. These can make up the bulk of the stool and hence gives you the benefit of satiety for much longer periods of time, and also improves regularity of bowel movement. We can see by looking at the spectrum of carbohydrates that there are some foods that overlap. We can also see that as we get to the more fermentable components, the food becomes less energy dense and more nutrient dense, conferring health benefits of the effects such as lowering blood glucose and cholesterol levels. I hope that there is increased understanding of the carbohydrate family of foods and knowledge of which we can all use when making certain decisions on food purchase and consumption. Que aproveche